How's it going, everybody? My name is Raven, and welcome back to the channel. Bandai has recently announced at the GAO finals that there is going to be an update to the restricted limit, however they want to call it, list, or in colloquial terms that most people know, a ban list. They're going to be updating the format because of some choice problem cards, and I read through a Reddit thread of people talking about what they want to see hit, how they want to see it hit. I took the most common cards that I saw, and I decided to put them together. I'm going to talk about them, what I think. I don't have a lot of the same opinions that people have. I have one very particular opinion that I'm in the mindset of that I think other people might disagree with, but I think, in my opinion, because that's what I think, it'll be fine. So let's go ahead and talk about it. It's the first thing, Ukomons, right? Ukomon is the current problem of this game. Ukomon is such a great tempo play, and it allows you so much extra aggression just by being able to hatch in the back consistently. And I think everybody can agree on that it lets decks like Numemon, like Ancient Garurumon, decks that don't need a rookie particularly, to be able to push this out and then chip for aggression. I've been playing Ancient Garu because I'm prepping for upcoming regionals, and there are games where I just play out 4 Ukomons and I'm able to accrue so much value and I'm able to swing so many chip checks that by the Ancient Garu comes down for the first time, I bounce the final security. I'm able to do 4 checks early. With that being said, only one of these Ukomons is the problem, and that's going to be Promo Ukomon. And I think that this card should be banned. There is no world in which you should have a generic level 3 that can Digivolve for free on top of any color, can see itself when it promotes to be able to hatch again and then gain an additional memory, and be able to attack. I don't think that an errata is the correct choice here. I think that no matter what, this card is going to be an issue no matter how you errata it, as if you keep the core principle of hatch and gain in memory. This card has to go. I don't see a world in which Promo Ukomon can live. I think it is too powerful, it is too strong, it opens up too many possibilities, especially with Louis being able to essentially have 1 cost egg promotions and then hatch another egg in the back is way too strong. It's way too over the top. But that being said, BT16 Ukomon is fine. I don't see an issue with BT16 Uko. I think BT16 Uko has a lot more drawbacks than Promo Uko does. Promo Uko digivolves for free, but BT16 Uko costs 1. That is huge. It doesn't allow you to Louis spam everything out and just keep pushing it out and keep attacking and going only -1 memory on it, and sometimes remaining memory neutral. You're searching instead of gaining additional memory, so it does help out these fringe decks be able to continue to play them, to be able to find their pieces that they might not have in-archetype searchers for. The biggest concern that a lot of people have is that hitting the Ukomons means that the worst decks get worse, and we should be banning the really strong, powerful cards. But I don't like that approach to ban list philosophies. I think that what we really should be working on is banning these generic cards that allow these really strong decks to perform even more powerfully, and banning some of the more powerful cards out of the main deck and not necessarily the Magna X's, right? So if let's say that we decide that Ancient Garurumon is the best deck you can be playing right now, which it could be, right? And especially after ban list, we don't know what's gonna happen yet. World's wild, wild west right now. If we were to ban Ancient Garurumon and keep both of these Ukomons around, then we're just gonna move to like Ancient Greymon. We're gonna move to like Numemon still, and we can ban, Nume and Monze X, which I'll get to in a bit. You can ban all of these cards around these decks, but it doesn't change the core fact that these 2 cards are going to be played anywhere. You can make the argument that the lower power card, the cards that are more generic and are accessible to more, should not be the ones that are hit, but I disagree. I disagree so strongly on that one. Those are the cards that need to go first. And there's a difference with those to say to like, I have Heaven's Judgment on here as a card I've seen a couple people talking about. Keep this card at 4. There's nothing wrong with having a generically powerful option card that costs 7 that can wipe a board. It is a good check to these decks that enjoy going wide, and it's a good check to these decks that like going tall in these multicolor decks. I could see an argument as we get more 3-color cards that you really don't want to have this card in a format with that, but this was made in EX4, so I'm almost imagining they were expecting this color combination thing to be happening. I don't see a world in which it's a problem that we have access to -6 4 times in a turn. I think that's completely acceptable, especially with how powerful decks are getting and how much cards are being able to be spat out. I don't see an issue with that. Back to the Ukomon part though, I think Promo Ukomon has to be banned. There's no 2 ways around it. Nobody can convince me otherwise. I've seen people calling for choice restrictions, and I think that is also incorrect. I think that if we see a choice restriction, we're just gonna see people stop playing BT16 Uko and just start playing Promo Uko. And then that brings us back to the whole point of Promo Uko is what really allows you to accrue extra aggression and keep a really strong tempo that decks that don't have the space to be able to play these Ukomons, like everything that isn't Ancient Garu and Numemon, get to have. It's just gotta go. BT16 is completely fine because it costs 1 and only searches. It doesn't gain you any additional memory resource on your turn. It lets you find pieces that you might otherwise be missing. If you have a Promo Uko in the back, it still costs a full 3 memory to promote it. So if you're starting at less than 3 and you Digivolve into an Uko at back, suddenly you're, let's say you're at 2, you Digivolve for 1, that Louis won't let you keep turn anymore. There's decks that originally I was thinking about that I'd want to play like 3 to 4 copies of, and I'm really settling on 1 to 2, just because that 1 cost and the inability to Digivolve in the back is such a detriment that sometimes the search doesn't outweigh it. So I think BT16 Ukomon is completely fine. Heaven's Judgment also is fine. Sorry about the middle of the road tangent there on that. All right, if we ban the Ukomons, what are we gonna do to Magnamon? I think Magna X is fine. Hear me out. Magna X is an extremely, extremely strong card that has fallen off in favor of going wide strategies and Ancient Garu strategies. And there's a possibility that once these Ukomons are hit, Magna X becomes the next dominant thing. And if we decide that we need to ban, if we need to hit Magna X in some way, that's totally fine. But I don't think that Magna X is the way. I think the way that we want to do it, and I'm gonna kind of lump in 2 cards in here. I think we need to limit 1, either or both of these cards. And if we only are doing 1, I would much rather prefer to see Emissary of Hope to 1. Emissary of Hope is a card that reads as if a custom card was created for somebody who wants to play Angels or Vaccines, but didn't have a good tool for it. And they're like, oh, I'll just Digivolve out of my security and then recover back if I have to TK. That cost being 1 is not enough of a downside for it, especially because the TK that you'll have 9 times out of 10 gains you back a memory. So usually you're able to grab the exact piece that you need that you put off of your BT14 TK into your security, Digivolve into that off of Emissary, and then recover back and keep the exact same amount of memory. If you're at 0, you can still go into this play and cheat out 3 to 4 memory and be able to keep turn for a free Evo. Card is incredibly powerful and it's going to extremely limit the design space of any yellow card that says Vaccine on it until the day it's gone. And I think that much for the same reason that we see Hidden Potential discovered at 1, I think Emissary should be at 1 as well. I think it is an extremely powerful card that if you play it at the right time can be super impactful and really swing out the game, and that's fun and that's really interesting. But being able to do it more than once in a single turn is not good. I was playing at Peoria Regionals, and I think that there was a turn that I promoted out like a cute mod for my security, or a pillow mod for my security. I used 3 emissaries and got up to a Magna X that was fully protected, and it cost me, I think, effectively 2 memory after all the memory gain I had for my TKs because we were in late game. That shouldn't be allowed. I shouldn't be allowed to go from a 3 to a 6 for 2 memory. With that being said, if they didn't want to hit Emissary for whatever reason, or if we want to really make sure that Magna X has some sort of small consistency issues in decks that don't play Magnamons, I think Awakening of the Golden Knight is the best way to approach it. Awakening of the Golden Knight essentially says that any level 4 armor form can Digivolve into a Magna X for a cost of 3. And I think that whenever they were designing originally Awakening of the Golden Knight, they weren't anticipating such a powerful Magnamon X antibody to exist. There's a reason that Magnamon X antibody doesn't cost 3 memory to evolve into. Even on level 5, it costs 4. On the Magnamon, it costs 5. And so suddenly, if you have this option card, you're able to go, okay, cool, great, awesome. I'm just going to Digivolve for 3. And then if I have a setter, I get to keep turn, and I get to swing twice. And it just is a super big form of aggression, regardless of whatever deck you're in. If whether you're playing Armor Vaccine or whether you're playing V-base armors, I think that this card is incredibly powerful. And I can see an argument that if you want to really make sure Magnamon X is kept in check, that this is the card that you have to do it with. I don't know if it's necessary, and I haven't play tested in a format where no Ukomon exists, so it's hard to say. But I think that BT16 Magna X is totally fine. I think it's a really respectable boss monster that feels frustrating to play against sometimes, but it has its outs. And I think that if you're able to remove a consistency piece here with Awakening of the Golden Knight, I think you're really in the clear. While we're on the armor vaccine topic, I would love to be able to talk about Patamon. Now, Patamon here, BT14 Patamon, a lot of contention about this guy, and for good reason. You can Digivolve into him in the back for free, and then so long as you can promote it out next turn, you're able to Digivolve to level 4. Sounds like there's a gamble, right? BT14 TK comes into play again, and you could make an argument, and it's a card that I overlooked. BT14 TK could be on this list for consideration of being banned or limited in any capacity, and I think that would be a reasonable conversation to have. I think BT14 TK has, as a essentially a, when it comes down for the turn, a 2-cost tamer that can set up your security is incredibly strong. A lot of times whenever I'm playing Armorbacks, suddenly I go, okay, Pata in the back, play out a TK, slot under this Rapid on the bottom, no matter what my opponent does, because it's turn 1, my opponent can't do that. And then I know for sure that between the Patamon, the Awakening, the Magna X, and the TK, I'm able to keep turn, I'm able to do 2 swings by the end of turn 2. Like, that's just way too strong. But I don't think that Patamon is the issue, and I understand what people are out there thinking. I get it. Patamon is broken, and Patamon needs to go. I just don't think it does. But we're still going to keep an eye on it. As more cards that are yellow and vaccine come out, this card is going to get stronger and stronger. Its ability to tuck a card from your hand underneath the setup further plays, and the ability for Patamon to gain back memory at whatever you do that effect off of its own inherited that it sees it is incredibly powerful, and I think that it's a card that we need to keep our eye on, but I don't think at this current moment that it needs to be hit. I think that if you hit the surrounding tools in the deck that make it as consistent as it is, I think that you can keep Patamon and you can play it in decks that don't really abuse it nearly as much as Magna X does, like 3 Great Angels. I think you're able to make a lot better of an argument there. Next up, let's just talk about Numemon. We've already talked about Magna, and you guys, I'll go ahead and make a quick mention in here. I don't really think that we need to hit anything in Ancient Garu. I think that Ancient Garurumon, much like Ancient Greymon, is a totally reasonable deck that just has a very fast accelerated game plan thanks to the Ukomon package. I think that if you were to hit Ukomon, promo Ukomon in particular, even if you kept it at 4 BT16 Ukos, I think that the Ancient Garu package swaps from this Rookie Rush aggressive deck that is able to swing out 5 eggs by the end of turn 5, always, and be able to clear out your opponent's security that way. I think as long as you get rid of that, and you make it go to blue base, it has to play a little bit more conservatively and has to rethink its game plan. There's a reason that blue base is worse, but blue base is still on some Ukomons, but not a ton. So I think that once we see that Uko go, I think that we're in the clear. I really, with the promo Lobo, I think that it opens up a lot of ability to do what you need. So let's talk about the best deck in the room. Let's talk about Numemon. Numemon has been a problem for months, and everybody is aware of that. There's a reason that whenever a new set comes out, people are trying new things, and then whoever wins the most, the person on Numemon tends to win the most recent regional, and that's nothing against the players. It's just that Numemon has so many good tools between being able to rush out aggro really early on and being able to kill things as they come up with Monzai X. The first card I want to talk about is Edamon. I think the people talking about Edamon needing to be hit are incorrect. I think that the Eda Valk package is a super interesting play, and I think having that available to anything is really strong, and I don't see a problem with it. It makes you, if you know your opponent's on the Eda Valk package, you don't have to promote, you don't have to do much. You can kind of just play a lot more conservatively and see where that takes you. I think that hitting Eda Valk is just not what you want to be doing. I think Edamon at 4, completely fine. However, biggest problem cards in Numemon are going to be the X Antibody Nume and Bonzaemons. Those 2 cards are incredibly strong. And I don't know what the right answer is. I really don't. I've been thinking about it a lot. And where my heart wants us to end up is here. And I know this sounds crazy. I know this sounds wild. But if we're banning promo Ukomon, and we're eliminating that form of aggression and that form of memory gain, Numemon's not really running setters, and it never really has. So if we get rid of the memory gain that Uko is able to get passively, and we limit to 1 Monzai X, which is the main ability the deck has to swarm the board with promo Ukomon gone, and if we keep Nume X at 4 copies, they're able to float into Platsuks. That's fine, or Plat Numes. That's okay. And I still think it might be too strong, but I don't want to completely neuter a deck that I know is a lot of people's favorites. Like, I don't know if there is a correct answer there. I think that Nume X should be definitely on the chopping block if the proposed hits here don't work out. I think that it is just going to be the thing to do. I could see very easily this being the decision and completely neutering the deck out, and I would be happy with that. I would be totally fine with this. I would rather never have to sit across from a Numemon deck because of their ability to aggro out and just kind of run me over. But if we're limiting promo Ukomon and we're limiting Monzai X, their swarming capability is next to none. And so their floating capability is where that deck should be allowed to shine. So I think this, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. If this is what they go with, that's fine. Tell me in the comments what you think, because I really don't know, but I know that something needs to be done about that deck. I have one set of choice restrict here, and it's Mom Shoto. I think everybody's kind of expecting a Mom Shoto. A lot of people are saying that like it's weird that Liberator cards aren't mentioned as the one getting blocker. And I think that the reason for that is because in Liberator, Shoto doesn't only use Liberator cards. Like in the structure deck, the only Liberator cards are the Zavagamon line. If I'm buying a brand new structure deck and I go, oh cool, I have this rare that I open, it's Shoto, it works really well in my deck, and I have like a Muchomon out, I can't block with that Muchomon, and that feels really bad. So that's why they did it, and I think that people need to understand that part of it. However, as somebody who is looking forward to playing Mom Control because I think it's funny, I don't think it's particularly healthy or fun to play against. So I think that choice limiting these two allows a lot of open-ended ability to kind of keep playing out other stuff. We're seeing Shoto popping up in like Demon Lords and such, which I think is an interesting tech, especially when paired with like Belfi Rage, or like showing up with like Lucy Satan or Chaos or whatever one they're calling it nowadays, or whatever they localized it as. I think that playing it with those is totally fine and totally fair and something that's interesting to do and something you have to think about. But having it with an egg that's unaffected, that you can keep bringing out. I originally thought you can only control one Mother D Reaper, and if that was the case, I think this pairing would be fine. But you don't have to control one Mother D Reaper for it to be unaffected. You can have up to 4, and it's just a slog for your opponent to get to. So I think the choice restricting these two, I think, is the correct way to go. We've seen them do choice restrictions with the promo Ukomon, as well as things that like effectively skip your opponent's turn, like Keenan Crier and all those guys. I think that limiting that is completely reasonable, a completely okay thing to do. Everybody is looking at me weird because I'm talking about BT12 XV. I don't think it needs to be hit now. But I do think that if we're hitting the promo Ukomon package, or if we're hitting the Ukomon package, the deck that shows up as one of the strongest contenders is going to be Imperial. Imperial is already one of the top meta format threats, one of the meta-defining decks in the game, and it only got stronger with Primogenitor and Imperial Paladin. If we want to ensure that it's a new selection of decks that Japan hasn't been dealing with for a while, you have to, I think if you're to hit anything, it's BT12 XVmon. I think, and it's not just because Imperialdramon's my favorite Digimon, I think that the deck is okay as it is. I think that the play patterns the deck has is fine. And I'm worried that it's only going to get worse if we take out the deck's worst matchups. Numemon is one of the deck's worst matchups because of its ability to swarm out, and sometimes you're just kind of missing pieces, and a Numemon player gets out faster than you, and they get out like 3 Ukomons by the end of turn 2. There's nothing you can do against that. And if that's the case, that's the case, and you just kind of got to deal with it. There's a really strong possibility that Imperialdramon becomes the best deck in the room after this upcoming ban list, if they're doing what I'm thinking of here. So you definitely need to keep an eye on BT12 XV. And I say BT12 XV because it gains you a memory and it has jamming. And so it lets you not only help you, assist you in keeping turn, it also allows you to make your checks much more effectively without repercussion. Especially if you go to BT16 Paiel, you are worried about absolutely nothing in security. There are very few things you have to worry about aside from exactly tamers that your opponents can digivolve on, hybrids onto, and swing for game that you might not have otherwise been prepared for. But for now, I think it's okay. I think that if you want to hit Imperial, this is the card to do it because you can always replace it with EX1 XVmon. And that costs 5 and it doesn't gain you back in memory, so it's a lot worse in a lot of situations, but it does allow you to still have that jamming inherit if that's what you really want. You don't get the ability to gain back that extra memory, but with all the Stingmons and all of the Davis Kens that you'll be playing, I think that's fine. I think that you'll find other cards that you can play in this instance, and I think that hitting this card is the best way to kind of hit the consistency of what we're seeing with Imperial and upcomingly Paiel and Magna X, that pile that I'm very excited to play. And finally, this is only like my 5th video. This is something you guys don't know. I don't like MirageGaogamon as a card. I think that MirageGaogamon is a card that is super unfun to play against because of the all turns effect. I would think this card would be totally fine and still very strong if instead of all turns, it said your turn. If it was a your turn effect, whenever a card is added to your opponent's hand, you gain X amount of memory, that would be totally fine. It makes trying to find the out to MirageGaogamon a lot worse. It makes it, it's like, okay, I have to try and search something, or like my egg is, whenever something is done, draw a card, and then I have to keep that in calculations in my mind. And if you don't have a center out for some reason, you're just out of luck. There's nothing that you can do. That kind of you just kind of lose the game. With all that being said, we can keep MirageGaogamon at 4. I think that either keep it at 4 or keep an eye on it. This keep an eye on it means that we'll be keeping it at 4. Keep it at 4 means that we're 100% keeping it at 4. But I could also see any of these cards in keep an eye out getting hit in another way. Back to MirageGaogamon, I think that it's an incredibly powerful card, and we're probably going to see more play with it, but I don't think it needs to be hit quite yet. I think that we are going to be in a very large state of flux with whatever this ban list ends up being, unless they don't hit promo Ukomon, and we're gonna have to figure out what's going on. I just watched the GAO finals, and watching this Galaxy Mirage deck kind of pop off made me want to play it. Like, I don't like MirageGaogamon as a card, but there are very cool things that it can do, and it provides a lot of value. I just wish that there was an errata that turned the all turns into a your turn effect, and I would buy this. I would buy a playset of the all turns in this card in a heartbeat. I think this card is super sweet to play with, except for the fact that it's hard to find the out. I see a lot of people talking about limiting the Ukos to 1 or choice restricting them, and I think the best thing you can do is just outright kill promo Ukomon, make sure no deck can play it. I know people don't like banning cards, but this card has to go. It's just gotta go. I think everything else on here, the only things I'm like kind of able to move on is I could see this being the way that Bandai decides to take it, and that's fine. But realistically, I think this is where we're at. And if we're gonna hit anything in Ancient Garu, it's going to be BT7 Koji, maybe? I could see maybe a limit 1 to BT7 Koji, but that does completely, it does a lot of damage to the deck until BT18, or until Release Special Booster 2 comes out for the States, in which case that we're going to be able to have access to Takuya Koji. The deck is going to be unplayable until that time. And there's a lot of really interesting decks coming out that are not really utilizing the Kojis as much by the time that deck rolls around, right? I'm seeing a lot of interesting results with purple hybrid based Ancient Garu piles, and so they play 4 of the Rihimon with a lot of the purple hybrid at bottom end, and I think that's super cool and that's super interesting. So I don't think we need to hit anything, but if you really want to hit something and make sure that we're going to be playing a completely different format, you hit Koji. But if you do hit that Koji, we are going to be playing Imperial and Dex Doragora, and I think that's a fine place to be. So I also didn't talk about any Unlimits on this list. I have a tab here if we want to talk about it super fast. There's very few cards on here that I think that we can unhit. You could maybe unhit this Eismon with scatter mode to 1. It could be fine, but we're also getting a new scatter mode, so you might not want to give it the ability to kind of swarm the board. Outside of that, the only other card, it's like you could maybe do Greymon X, but it's one of the more powerful cards on this, and I know that people are like, well, Greymon's not doing anything, so we'd like to be able to play it at 4 copies, but I think that while that is true, I think this is a very powerful card, and we should definitely, with the more dual color cards that are coming out, we need to be careful about it. Eismon can be unhit. People are wanting Argomon to be unhit, but I don't think that we can do that because Digizorbson for a free Evo with an inherited effect is too powerful. I mean, we also see Blossomon on this list, which is Argomon, but worse. And it's also on this list. So I don't see a world in which we ever get Argomon back to 4 copies, unfortunately. I could see one card that I wish that they would unhit, or 2, are the 2 Gabus, BT2 and Structured X6. They hit these whenever they really hit the deep draw part of the Gabu X stuff, but they also hit the Gabu X stuff, so I don't think that these need to be hit anymore. I think you can put these back to 4 copies, and absolutely nothing is going to change. But I think that's about all they can undo. They could do those, and then absolutely, maybe, possibly, like, Sunrise Buster, and that's about it. I think that I know a lot of people are calling for Dorugray, but I think Dorugray is too strong, having played the one of Dorugray. Whenever I hit that Dorugray while I'm playing Dex Dorugora is incredibly strong. So that's everything I got. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll go ahead and, as I'm doing my outro here, I'll go ahead and bring us back over to my ban list ideas, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to think, and I would love for you to tell me why you think that I'm wrong. I usually am. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not flawless in any sort of way, so I would love to be able to hear kind of what you guys have. So until next time, take it easy.